Hi, I'm Nate Hobbs, and we're at Rafting Rendezvous, the first annual. You'll be seeing more of these in the future. But today we're here with Trenten and Jeremiah from Sotar. They're going to give a quick demo on boat repair. They have this thwart here. They're going to show us how to repair a raft on the side of the river, and then talk about how to fix that patch when you're out on the river. So Trenten, let's say I'm out rafting on Gates of Lador. I find myself a nice sharp piece of limestone, and I've got this tear, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my day is ruined. What do I do?
Well, first you're going to want to try and get to shore.
Okay.
All right, and then once you get to shore, your best bet on a field repair is going to be tear aid.
Which tear aid do you use?
Tear aid type B.
Okay, why do we use tear aid type B?
It's made for vinyl.
Okay.
Which urethane and PVC are both a vinyl family.
Okay.
And there's more backing on this. It's a lot stickier than the type A. The type B, you're going to get a better adhesion.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Make sure you get all the water out of the boat possible.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to get there. So this is a nice little hole here, but the sad thing is it's not big enough to make a proper repair. So what I'm going to need to do, and don't be afraid to cut your hole a little bit larger, because you need to be able to get inside and get a proper inside patch. So we're just going to take this, follow the straight line there, get it to where you can comfortably get your hand inside. Yeah, there we go. It's not too wet. Perfect. Let's go ahead and get the rest of
And make sure there's a nice flat surface on the other side to push against. Yeah.
You can always do this out of the water.
Okay.
On a nice smooth surface, and then generally your tear aid will come with some alcohol wipes, but we have some methyl ethyl ketone that works.
Comes standard in the patch kit you get when you get your boat.
So you just take a little bit of this MEK or your isopropyl alcohol wipe, and you're going to want to wipe the internal surface of the boat. It's not oxidized, but you are blowing all kinds of random stuff in there from your pump, so there's probably residual dusts and other things like that. We're just going to go in there.
So right now you're wiping this down without gloves. Is it better to use gloves? Is it okay to handle this stuff without gloves?
It's not that big of a deal.
Okay.
Gloves do come in your patch kit,
right.
but
if you don't have them, it's not a deal breaker.
No, it's not.
Okay.
Nice and clean in there. You want to be able to feel that you've wiped all the way around. And then at this point, we're going to give it a minute because we need to let that gas out.
Okay.
It's a term that we like to call. I don't know if it's real.
Yep.
Gas out.
Off-gassing. You got all the fumes from the MEK, and it is a solvent that will peel seams apart. So if you completely seal it in, then that gas is inside your tube working its magic over time.
Okay.
So you want to let it kind of fume out and get out of the tube.
And you said about a minute?
Yeah, it's a really volatile solvent. It'll come out real quick.
So is it safe to say when it stops smelling like MEK, or is that
the
not?
The smell can hang around.
For a while, yeah.
I like to do it until it's not cold anymore.
Because as it evaporates, it takes out energy and makes the surface cold.
Yeah, evaporative cooling that's happening from that solvent.
Yeah,
okay.
So we'll just wipe the inside, and we're going to wipe the outside. Make sure we get all the dirt, dust, and debris off. And that's going to be gassing out while we work on getting our inside patch installed. So with your tear aid, with a patch like this, it's going to be perfect. It's 3 inches wide. I recommend 1 to 1.5 inches of tear aid on either side of your tear. So this one's perfect. We got 3 inches wide. We're going to take it 1 inch past one end and another here. There, and just like the tear aid instructions say, round your corners. Those 90-degree corners will be the first thing to start peeling up on you. Alright, so we got our patch cut. Before we go in there, I'm just going to reach in and make sure it's not freezing cold anymore. Feeling pretty good. Alright, now before I do anything drastic like take the backing off this and have a big sticky mess in my hands, I'm just going to do a dry run, kind of see what's going to happen when I get inside here. Alright, I think think that's gonna work.
Okay.
We wouldn't be able to get a pen, would we?
Pen, like
Yeah.
a writing pen?
Yeah, a writing pen.
Top drawer of the blue toolbox.
If not, that's all right. I'll show you guys another trick. To get this patch centered on the inside of the boat, we're just gonna take it, we're gonna fold it right in half and put a nice crease in there. This is gonna ensure that we don't get the patch too far over this way or too far over that way. Thank you for the pen. I'm gonna do it again this way. And if you do so happen to have a Sharpie, go ahead and make your center.
So when you line it up in there, you know exactly where it needs to be.
So we're
Look in
seeing some cross hatches, and you're gonna just line those up vertically and horizontally across that repair, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Get it in there, take another look. Alright, yeah, this is gonna work great. Okay, so we know it's gonna give us a little bit of trouble. So I'm not gonna take the backing off all the way.
Okay.
I'm just gonna peel back a little edge here.
You get it started, and then peel off as you go.
Just a little bit, maybe even a little less.
So you're exposing about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch on that edge, and that's what you're starting with?
Right, and I can still see my cross back here, so I know where the center of my patch is.
Got it.
I'm gonna lift up in here. Lift up a little bit higher, just because you don't want it to stick in there and get stuck. And go in there, don't be bashful, reach in all the way. Pull it to where you can see my little crease. Oh, there we go, it's looking good. Get your hand out and you can slowly lower this down and make sure you're still on center.
Cool.
The patch isn't stuck yet, it's still just floating in there.
So you're bringing the outside of the tube to the patch that's on your hard surface, right? Okay, that's clutch move right there.
And that's the difficult thing on the side of the river. If you're on boulders or rocks, whatever, you might need to put something underneath the tube to
Like
make a flat
an
surface.
ammo can or a
Yeah,
dry
a
box
paddle
or something.
Something
Okay.
that's flat.
We get it right lined up really close. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you want to try your best because you're going to boat out on this. All right, so remember, it's floating around. I have one edge of sticky exposed.
Okay.
I got it centered. The patch can still move from here. I'm going to press down and I'm going to find that edge that's exposed. Sticky right there, I can feel it. Go ahead and push down real good. You can use the back of your scissors or you can use your valve tool and really push down on that. Get all the bubbles out. And now we're going to come inside. We lift up. Oh, we can see our patch is lifted. So it's adhered.
Okay.
Perfect. We're going to push on back down. And just like doing like a big sticker on something, we're just going to slowly pull back that tab and press down as we're going.
Okay.
Once we get about here, we got to lift in and pull it all the way out and then seal it.
Okay. So
Last
are you
one's a
ever
little
removing that backing completely? Is it still floating around in there?
We're going to pull it out.
Okay.
All the way out.
Wow, this is going to be...
It's going to blow your mind.
It really is, actually.
Well, and that's why he's going from one side to the other, because you're going to be pushing bubbles and wrinkles out as you go.
Okay, so we're squeegeeing across,
Exactly.
getting the wrinkles, getting the
If
bubbles.
you just push down, you're going to capture air, which is fine. The tear will still hold, but it won't be as good.
Okay.
Right, so you can see here I'm working my my backing out, and I'm giving it a nice rub back and forth. As far as I go, pull a little more. Make sure you get it nice and tight in there.
Yep, and you're lining up your tear at the same time, trying to keep that as close as possible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the inside patch is more crucial than the outside patch, because if you think if you have the surface of your tube and your patch is there, the air pressure is pushing your patch against the material, locking it in place.
Well, and that's what I've liked about other brands of boats, but with this technique, opening up the tube, that makes that interior-exterior patch way more accessible than what I previously thought was possible. I've always been putting like Gorilla tape over the exterior, and I'm like squeegeeing down every 30 seconds, like, is that gonna work?
Yeah. Then your boat's super soft. And,
yep, exactly. This is already a much better repair than I had ever thought of.
Just like always, it gives you a little trouble trying to get the last of the backing off. Just give it time, work it.
Yeah, the outside patch is to kind of get into the fissures that are going to happen, because you're not going to be perfect.
Okay.
But it's a similar procedure when we're repairing it permanently in the shop. We're hot air welding, so it's a permanent patch, but it's still the same procedure.
So
Lining
you're
up.
putting
Material on the
material on the inside, welding that, and then welding another. So we're still getting that inside, outside
Yep.
layering over.
And then what we'll
over the
do
material.
also is
Okay.
we'll tape off and we'll paint on a liquid urethane over the top of the outside patch, and it seals up the edge so that there's no way that water and mold can get into the base fabric and it can delaminate.
Okay, cool. So you got the inside
Bam.
patch in.
Yep. And you can go ahead and tug on it. You make sure that it's in there, it's not pulling apart any.
Yep.
You're gonna have just a little bit of a gap.
That's not a big deal.
No, it's not a big deal.
At what point does it become a big deal? Is it like 3 millimeters, 5
I'd
millimeters?
say don't get any bigger than 1/8 of an inch.
Eighth of an
Yeah.
inch. Okay.
Well, I mean, really what you're gonna end up with is just a misshapen tube at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna be bigger.
Yeah.
And the tear aid doesn't have any cloth in it, so it doesn't have a lot of structural strength. So if the gap is bigger, more air pressure is pushing out, and that's going to want to stretch more.
Got it. Got it. Okay.
All right, and then just like the inside patch, we're gonna do the 1 to 2 inch extra rule on both sides of the tear. And go 1 inch further, another inch this way. And like before, round your corners.
And this is exactly why we recommend having the roll of tear aid versus the small sheets. Because if you have a large tear like this and you have to start overlapping layers of tear aid, there can be minor leaks in between those
Between the layers.
So just having
Got
a bigger
it.
chunk of work is just way easier.
Okay.
And sometimes you can get a tear that forms like an L, where it cuts one way and then the tear will turn 90 degrees on the cloth.
Yep.
And you just want to make sure that if it's not big enough, then you can overlap the layers.
Cool.
But it's the same procedure.
Okay, with this one, we don't really have to worry too much about making our center mark on it because we're working on top of it. We can
it?
see.
Yep.
See what's going on.
But you're still gonna want to kind of get it to where you're at. All right. It's just gonna go down nice and smooth, just like that. And just like on the inside, we're not gonna take off all the backing at once.
Okay.
We're gonna start with just a corner.
And so at this point, we've wiped it down with MEK.
Yep.
It's off gassed enough time. It doesn't feel cool to the touch, and we're putting this second layer on.
Yep.
Okay.
We've got our inside patch.
And also you try to make sure your hands are clean too, because you're going to be adding
Got
dirt
it.
to
You
them.
don't want to add any skin oils or dirt or grime in there.
Sand is the worst, yeah.
Sand. Okay. Yep. Anything that's going to help or keep that from making good connection.
You can see how he's kind of working it back and forth,
Yeah.
really getting every crease out.
And I mean, you can see it. It'll look like it's stuck. Kind of like that.
Yep.
But that's not stuck, man. Get your finger in
Yeah.
there.
So I don't know if this shows up on camera, but you can see this line right here where it's slightly darker on one side and clearer, and is a very noticeable line.
Yeah.
And so you're working it across
From
the
the
seam,
center out, yeah.
center out, using
Just
the
like
thumb
that.
or something hard like that,
Yeah.
the back of that scissor.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, you can use there. Anything smooth and hard that you can push down on it. I'm just gonna work it nice and slow, get it about an inch further, and repeat. There we go. Alright, finish this out. And try not to get your fingers all over the tear aid too much. You are gonna have to touch it, it's okay.
And it's really important to do it this way when it's going from one side to the other, because it's really common. Peel all the way off and then it sticks to itself.
Yep.
And then that piece is trash.
Then you've blown up your tear aid, and you may not have enough to get out.
Alright. And there we go.
Alright,
So we see even contact across the whole thing, and
there's no bubbles.
Got a
no
couple of
bubbles.
ones, but,
Yep.
I mean, that's not the world end.
Okay, so there are a little bit, and you're going to chase those out to
Yeah,
the
try
edge
and
with
get
your
them out.
fingernail. If they don't, we're still okay, right?
Yeah.
All
You
right.
As long as your big bubble's not in here.
Got it. So a big bubble over the seam, no good.
The guy got back to us in a repair shop and he had baseball stitched it. And then teared over that because the tear
Got
wasn't
it.
strong enough to hold it
Yeah.
together.
I've
It
seen.
worked okay.
Yeah.
He had to run it at like half pressure for the next like 2 days when he was on the river trip.
But it worked.
But it worked.
He didn't have.
He
to
was like,
glue shit
what do you,
up.
No,
what do you
yeah.
think of my fix? I was like,
Awesome.
you're here, you're not stuck on the river, so.
Yeah. And he didn't ruin his boat.
Didn't ruin his boat. The other thing too is with the Terry that's nice, even if it sets up for like a year or so, we can apply hot air and heat it up, and then it softens the glue. We can peel it right off.
Got it.
So it saves so much time for the repair and a lot of money.
So really, this is the right stuff to use.
We still include the glue for those cases if we send a boat to Germany or whatever, and they can't get the stuff. They need to do a longer term repair.
Yeah.
Which
Okay.
adhesive are you guys using?
This is Stay Bond.
Okay.
Is the name of the manufacturer of the glue. But,
It works pretty good if you let it cure.
yeah.
Right.
Do you guys send out any of the, what is it, like the LA 123 or what's the...
No.
123 or
We used to use Clifton,
Yeah.
and I don't know if they changed their formula or whatever, but it just started failing.
Oh,
So we moved to
interesting.
Stay Bond instead.
I've used Clifton. They highly recommend not too much MEK
Mhm.
and buffing.
Yeah. Now you don't need to sand this
Right.
when we're doing a Stay Bond patch or a Terry patch, because you're introducing lots of ridges and valleys by sanding that the air can work its way through. But by doing that, you're making these ridges and valleys, so the adhesion is more of a mechanical bond. It's like the glue is getting around those things and it's holding it together.
It's not
a chemical bond.
Yeah.
What I found strange is they said MEK and then buff, and then you have dust. And they're like, don't MEK wipe anymore.
But you have to. You got to clean that dust off.
Yeah.
They like the MEK will destroy the microtexture that you sanded.
The microtexture that you sanded.
Yeah. Which
The
it will.
microtexture that you sanded to allow air to make its way through.
Yes.
Look at that. He's incredulous.
I'm a realist, man.
I disagree. That's what a barrel pump.
Yeah.
That's why I need to use a better glue. No, I've read the instructions. Jack's Plastic will send you 4 pages of
Right. And he also won't repair his boats.
Oh, really? Does it have a repair shop? That's interesting.
All right. So we've pumped it up.
Let's turn it.
Yeah, keep going.
We've got that one. This is a 6-inch barrel pump. I'm 180 pounds. I'm putting.
Probably good.
You're
Yeah.
almost 4 psi.
Oh yeah, that's rock solid.
Okay. Take some air out. It's starting to stretch.
Oh,
the air.
look at this.
A little bit of air out.
Yeah. So that actually feels like proper tube inflation. So if we were running this slightly flat, this would be completely good to go.
Yeah.
This is our 1/4-inch hole that we punctured in there, and that is perfectly fine. There's no distortion in that hole at all.
And this is a case where if you were to stitch that, that might help a little.
Yeah.
bit.
So
I've never done that myself, so I won't say you should do that, but I could imagine pulling this in would help.
and that's a baseball stitch. You're coming through this side, back down, up through this side, back down, up through this side.
Yeah, you can also loop it so it just pulls together. But,
Okay.
but again, I haven't done that in the field, so I won't say you should do that in the field.
Okay, but if this is not strong enough, that's a possibility, but not recommended. This is holding incredibly well.
And it's stretching.
Again, I'm 180 pounds. This is a 6-inch barrel pump. I was leaning on that thing to put air pressure into it.
Yeah, that's good to go, man.
Cool. And that's the benefit of, you see it bulging, right? Is if you're running a lower pressure, if you were to wrap again, hit a rock or something, the extra pressure on the boat is going to increase the pressure in the tube, and that's where it's going to fail. So running your boat softer a little bit helps with that down the road.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Question
Cool.
on the Terry.
Mm-hmm.
From what I read, Type A is the one that I carry a lot of. It seems like it does the majority of repairs, and then was sort of like
So we've patched it, we inflate it with air, we get to camp. At camp, is that the place to try and take this off and put on a patch with real material? Or if it's holding air, do we try and do the trip with this and get out? Or what's your recommended procedure?
If it's holding air, I suggest you leave this.
Okay.
Leave it, yeah.
And if for some reason that it does happen to fail, just take it off and put another one on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
when you get into the realm of gluing,
yes, the realm of gluing. You
The
got
realm
really
of
excited about the realm of gluing. So
well, the thing about glue is if you're going to try and affect a glued-on patch, you
Yep.
need at least 24 hours of weighted press time
To make it
on a flat
100%
surface.
set.
okay, so you're probably not going to do 24-hour layover day.
No.
So stick with this.
Stick with it.
All right, so I row my boat out of Gates of Lador. Everybody's happy. My tube is held. I get home and I'm sitting around in the middle of the night drinking beer, thinking about this hole in my boat. What do I do then?
Sleep on it.
Sleep on it. Okay.
When you wake up in the morning, think about it again. This is glue. It's some serious glue.
Okay.
If you start smearing it all around in a big area, it's going to stain. And if you bring your boat into Sotar for me to properly fix it, I'm going to have to charge you an arm and a leg because that glue does not come off.
Got
You have
it.
to literally dissolve it and scrub down hours of just back and forth, back
Yeah.
and forth.
So don't do this after a beer.
Yeah.
Call you guys first. Got
Which is
it.
why it's good that he's saying if you got some masking tape or something to tape
Right.
off the area so if the glue does squirt out,
Okay.
you can just like painter's tape,
So,
peel it
so
off.
let's talk quickly about an appropriate glue repair. You know, I get a repair kit from Sotar. I get
Yep.
some material. What comes in that repair kit?
So you've got the glue itself,
Yep.
and you got the accelerator.
Okay.
It's a 1-to-1 ratio. You pour all of this into here.
So that's a one-time use
One-time
thing. I don't
use.
try and like pour half of that and half of that.
That's a really good point. If what I tend to do in my own patch kit is I'll carry some Dixie cups or something like that.
Yep.
So if I'm doing a multi-day and I need to use the glue, I can pour half and half, and then save the rest if I really need it.
Got it.
But generally, it's just easier. People aren't thinking like I'm not going to measure this and make it exactly perfect so the ratio's right. You just pour the whole thing in and stir. And go from there.
Okay.
You can speed it up if you use a higher percentage of accelerator,
Okay.
but then you're playing with fire because then it might cure in your hand before you can get it set. So yeah, it's a
Will
little
that
tricky.
have a strong? Will the Type B have a stronger bond in 24 hours? Like, is it?
You know, I'm not sure. I
Okay.
wouldn't be able to say for sure. I've got friends that have used Terrain and they just every year they'd air their boat up and peel the old Terrain off and put new one on and just
Yeah.
run it
Right.
like that and be fine. But I haven't done it myself, so I wouldn't say for sure.
And just another one this morning. My latex gasket is set a little split in it. And I'd already kind of cut a thing out, and I was using Type A to
Okay.
repair over that. Would you recommend using B on that, being that it's a latex or?
At that point it's a
I know it's
mechanical
not
bond.
perfect, but
Right.
like-
It's a completely different. It's a thermoset plastic, so
I veer towards the B because it has more adhesive on it.
Okay.
When I get customers that bring in their boats and they use Type B, it's hard for me to get that thing off.
Okay.
Type A, I can just pull right off because there's not as much adhesive on it.
whether that's a
So my
Manufacturing
understanding is that that's
process
the
or-
biggest difference is the amount of adhesive that's really.
That's the only thing I've ever found between the two.
Okay.
they don't tell us what's in their chemistry, so we can't
Okay.
verify.
Yeah.
What about Gorilla Tape? Why shouldn't I fix my boat with Gorilla Tape?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Use
Even-
Gorilla Tape before you use the glue, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even for small boats, Tyvek tape works okay. It's not as strong. It doesn't stretch and strong as this stuff. I did a repair in the shop on a pack raft with it. Did an inside outside patch, aired it up, and held great. Aired it up to like 4 psi. Oh, this is great! And then it exploded and tore a huge hole in the boat.
Whoops.
Knocked my hat off my head. It was hilarious. But yeah, so there's a wide variety of adhesives out there that will work if you can get a good inside seal, because then
Yeah.
the air pressure is going to hold it against.
Well,
the
and that's the key. Like I've always been afraid to make things bigger.
Right.
And I've always like, how do I get this into this little 3-inch
Even cutting
thing?
across here, if you have like something that's like a 1 or 2 inch, sometimes you can cut it 90 degrees so it opens up more, and you can just get a little hand in or something.
Okay.
But yeah,
But this is impressive. I'm glad that I got to see this. Trevor, did you
Sure.
have a question? Okay.
Does that? I know we're talking a lot about the Sotar, but some of the other brands as well, with
Sure.
dry sides, Moravias,
Mhm.
Airs. Is that still a method you would recommend with some of those?
Yeah.
Or is that
same
sort of
same
brand
process.
specific?
I'm not sure about Hypalon and how it sticks,
Right.
but Moravia, a PVC boat, a urethane boat, it works just fine.
Gotcha.
Same process. I mean, and it's nice for like an air because you got the bladder, so you can patch the bladder, and then when you air it up, it pushes against the outside and it holds pretty good. So either way, it's the inside patch is like key.
Pressure.
earlier you guys were talking about some pretty interesting chemicals to make this work. And part of that was because of the oxidation that we have on tubes. My tubes were once this color. They're not that color anymore.
Right,
I think
right.
I bought them in 2009. It's now 2021. So with that kind of tube, what do I need to do to make an effective repair?
Stick with terate for a while.
Okay.
And then if you can't get a hold of THF, which you shouldn't be able to because it's a nasty chemical.
Okay, and what is it? Just
So
off gases?
tetrahydrofuran.
Okay.
We tend to use 2 organic solvents in our shop. We use MEK, which is methyl ketone, and we use THF. THF is a much better solvent. Actually, will dissolve the top layer, which is what we're literally doing is removing like fractions of a millimeter of urethane off of the boat.
Got it.
And that's so if you're swimming with a rag, the rag will become the color of your boat because you're dissolving all that material.
Okay.
And then if we need to, we will paint on fresh urethane to build up the thickness again if we need to.
Got it.
Most of the time we don't, but it depends on how old it is.
So that super toxic stuff, I can't get that at the hardware store. I can get the MEK. I see that
The
in the paint
workaround though
aisle.
is it doesn't work as great. We did boats for the Eco Challenge in Fiji, and I couldn't ship THF to do repairs in the field, but PVC paint primer, the purple stuff,
Okay.
that has MEK, cyclohexane, and THF in it. It's not as good as pure THF, but if you can, sometimes you can find it that doesn't have the purple pigment in it,
Yep.
and it's clear. That works better than MEK, but not as good as pure THF.
Got it. And that
So-
would be
Right.
at the plumbing store?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We don't recommend people doing that because if you have a really old boat, it's an aggressive enough solvent, you could peel a seam apart if you're sloppy with the
Got
chemical.
it. It's a super old boat. Send it to Sotar. Spend
Yeah.
the money. It's going to last more years. And I don't know how you popped it in the first place, but
will
it does
fix it.
happen.
But it is possible to glue on your own patch using MEK. It takes longer because MEK is not a strong solvent. So it's not going to dissolve the layers of oxidation as fast as one would like.
Okay.
So it's
So
more
with the
scrub
MEK,
Yeah.
we clean that. Then what do we do?
Well, first we'll
Oh,
start a little bit
oh.
before here.
Step back then.
Yeah,
Okay.
so let's just say, for instance, our hole isn't this big. Our hole isn't so big that it's going to warrant an inside patch. We're just going to glue on this little guy.
Okay.
So let's just envision our little hole here. We cut our patch out of our extra material here.
I've got a box cutter. I'm not afraid to use it.
There you go.
So that's a quarter inch.
Yeah. Yep.
A punji stick got me.
All right. So then you're gonna,
Move
just
this
like the
over so it's
terrain,
on a flat surface.
cut yourself out a nice piece that'll cover the whole area and around your edges.
Yeah. Just roll this over so the hole is
Off the
flat.
valve.
Yeah.
All right.
There we
There
go.
you go.
All right. So at this point, if this is an older tube, older than 2, 3, or 4 years old, it's going to have oxidation on it. You're
Okay.
going to have to expose it to more of this MEK than we did for the terate.
Okay.
So when we're gonna get ready for a heavy chemical exposure, we need to tape off the area. If you don't tape off the area, you're gonna end up with all kinds of chemical runs. It'll start pooling up here, and then that MEK will get to work at separating those layers of urethane.
So you'll see drip lines and things like that.
Okay, so the 2-inch masking tape that I used to paint my house this summer is going to do just fine.
It's gonna do
Okay.
perfect. It's what we use at Sotar.
All right, I'll let you put that on.
Yeah, so once you get your patch cut to the size that you're happy with, just center it right over your hole. Ooh. Yeah, this stuff might not work.
I said it was old tape.
But what he's basically trying to do is he's going to be taping around the edges, and then he can go back with the scissors and gently cut the patch
Right.
off, leaving a perfect size negative left over where the patch is going to sit.
Okay.
Where you're gonna focus your chemical exposure to remove your layers of oxidation.
Otherwise, you're scrubbing a larger area than you need.
Right. And then once you get the material cleaned to where it's nice and shiny and you can feel a little stickiness to your finger on it, you're ready to glue.
Okay, so the material feels sticky,
Yep.
It's nice and shiny.
nice and shiny. Got it.
Sticky. And you leave your taped off area there
Okay.
because that's going to keep you from getting glue all over your boat.
And then
Glue all over your boat's terrible.
yeah,
It's going to ruin you.
This adds a lot of extra labor to repair in the
Right.
Yeah.
future.
So it's taped off, we scrubbed it, we cleaned it, we're ready for our glue.
Gonna mix 100% of this in here, stir it really well with an acid brush that comes in your patch kit. Stir it for what, 2-3 minutes? Get it nice and
just until it all becomes nice and happy viscous.
Okay.
And then you're gonna apply coat. First, you need to clean the patch with MEK also.
Right, you gotta give this a wipe, and then also to get this glue to properly adhere to this other substance, we need to slightly dissolve this substance, which would mean wiping it with the MEK first, and while it's still wet with MEK, you need to get your glue on.
Okay.
If you let it dry, the glue will just peel right off.
So the material's tacky, put the glue on, and then same thing with the other the patch material.
Yeah.
So
Give this
wipe
a
it with
wipe.
MEK
And while
put the glue on.
Yeah, while it's still wet with MEK.
Okay, and so
That
when
is
when those two glues, at what point do I put my patch to my material?
You still wait.
Okay.
Because we need to let these two pieces dry for about 10-15 minutes.
All right.
Until they don't stick to each other. I know it sounds weird, but you don't want the glue to stick to itself while it's dry.
You want it to be cured and stuck to the surface, and then we can wipe with MEK and that reactivates the glue.
So, okay.
But you want to do your second coat of glue.
2 coats of glue.
You want a thick enough layer of glue that it sticks. The problem, people, is they tend to put a really thick layer on, but then it takes more time for it to cure because there's so much surface there. So it just makes the patch take a lot longer. It doesn't stick as
Got
good.
it.
So the thinner the coat, the better.
2 thin coats,
Yeah.
letting it cure 10 minutes, letting it cure 10 minutes is better than doing one thick coat because it doesn't.
Smashing it on there. It's not going to dry.
Yeah, you're
Got
going to be waiting there for 45 minutes for it to dry too.
Okay.
So we get our 2 coats on. They're both nice and dry. If you stick one to the other, they're not going to stick. You're like, oh, how am I going to make this work? We need to activate the glue using the MEK one more time.
Okay.
So you take your MEK rag, you activate the glue that's on the boat, you activate the glue that's on the patch, and then you just kind of let it breathe for a few seconds.
Okay.
You know, let the glue activate. If you try and stick the two right now when they're both wet with MEK, it's going to slide all over.
Mm-hmm.
Wipe it. Go ahead and count to 8.
Okay.
And then just like the Terade, we're going to start from one side and work your way over.
Pressing it down, squeegeeing out
Squeegeeing
those
out
bubbles.
the air bubbles. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Cool.
then from this point, if you want a properly glued patch, you need to put something heavy and flat on this and let it cure for 24 hours.
Okay, so like an oven pan with a dumbbell on
Yeah,
top of it.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Piece
you
of
can
plywood.
wait.
Yeah.
You can run the boat sooner, but as far as the chemistry is concerned, it's going to start curing better over time. So you're really running a gamble. I mean, if you're on the river and you're like, oh man, it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I glue my patch on, and then 10 or 11 o'clock the next day, you need to hit the water, run the boat soft.
Got it.
Be really careful.
Right.
Okay.
And if you are in that situation, just consider carrying Terade with you so you don't have to do that.
Yeah. So Terade is really the proper field
Right.
fix.
It is.
And then sending it to you guys so you can use that super toxic stuff to make the proper
Right.
repair
Yeah.
And
or
thermal weld.
do a proper weld. And then if I can't afford that, I'm a raft guide bum, I haven't made any tips this month, then I go to this method.
When you
Yes.
have a solid 24 hours of not using your boat.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So Jeremiah, Trenten, thank you very much for
Yeah, you're
showing us
welcome.
how to repair the boat. This has been enlightening. The key points though are if your hole isn't big enough to do a 2-sided repair, don't be afraid. Round the corners on the patch. What are the other key points that we need to remember for that Terade field repair?
You'll be impressed. It's an incredible product.
Okay.
Yeah, just stick with your Terade, and if for some reason it starts to peel off, just pull over, take it off, and put on another one.
Cool.
And you'll
So,
be good to go.
so carry enough.
Yeah, because
Carry
this glued-on patch is a one-shot deal. If you try that field repair, you've only got an hour to wait. The patch is gonna fail.
Yep.
You get downstream, and you get home, and you're like, all right, I had 24 hours to try and do this again.
You have to remove all that glue first.
Which you can't because you're not access to the strong chemicals. You don't
Yeah.
want to have that access.
Okay.
New glue will not stick to old activated glue. It's just not going to happen.
Got it.
That and the boat have a slow leak somewhere.
Uh-huh.
It's the valve.
Oh.
Take the valve off and clean the rubber gasket that's on the inside.
Yep.
Fix
Some
the problem.
grime got in there, retighten it.
Plunger.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, yep.
Oh, and that's also a good point too. That Leafield, the manufacturer of the valves, says that this gasket on the cap is supposed to be the primary seal.
Ha!
This in here is so you can air it up and
secondary.
stay. So if you lose your valve cap, get a new valve
Get
cap.
a new valve cap.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I always thought those were disposable.
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you guys again, Jeremiah and Trenten from Sotar. This has been a Rafting Magazine quick repair. Not quick repair, but quick tutorial. Thank you for watching.